What's in your files about me? None of your business. It's our business records. Tough. You go to the government and you say, here's my Freedom of Information Act request. I know you pulled a Choice Point report on me. I want to know what was in that report. Sorry, we can't give it to you. It's a private business record. FOIA is dead, buried. It tried to come back to life. Choice Point hammered a big stake in its heart, and now it's gone. These are, for a longer seminar, these are the companies they've bought. Now, Rick and I were talking about this earlier. This is a real case I did about 2 months ago. Guy came to me and he says, look, I don't want you to think I'm one of these repressed memory idiots, but I was raped by my teacher 20 years ago. I'm not looking to bring charges, I'm not looking to sue him, but I want to hire you guys to investigate him, find out what he's doing now, and keep him from doing it to anybody else. I've come into a lot of money, we'll pay you. I said, absolutely, happy to do it. And I investigated the guy, who, by the way, is now just not a teacher, he's an assistant principal. And everything that I've talked about, when I background you, I do all of that stuff and more. And one of the things that I've been doing the past year is looking at these massive role player games. If I look at your avatar, if I look at what you do in Second Life, if I look at what you do in World of Warcraft or any of these other games, how much of a window into your true character is that? It's enormous. If you are an assistant, bald, fat, cigar-smoking high school principal, assistant high school principal, and this is your avatar, which it was? No, which it really was? Man, you know, I kind of know I'm on the right track. And by the way, flipping back to Google for a second, Google is now starting their own avatar chat room, find out about you that way, because we are evil and we do a lot of evil, called Lively. Now, the one thing you got to say about Google, when they screw you, they say, we are about to screw you. Here's what they say on their official blog. I mean, who knew? Google has an official blog. If you enter a Lively room embedded on your favorite blog or website, and by the way, you don't need special software. That's one of the things that sucks you in. You can do it from any browser. You can immediately get a sense of the room creator's interests. You can express your own personality. Yeah? You can express your own personality by customizing your avatar's look, showing, it's in red for a reason, showing people who you are without having to say a word. Now let's say I'm Mr. Google. I'm Sergey Brin. And I rise from my coffin and I go down to the data room and I say, you know, we know everything about, what's your name? Okay, put that in. Okay, we know everything about Eleanor. We know where she lives, we know where she works. We've got her RSS feeds. We know what she downloads. We've got all the groups she contributes to. We've tracked her address. We've tracked her email address to where she contributes. But we want to know more. Tap, 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 go into Lively. Ah, she's using avatar number 703, the teenage sadomasochistic prostitute. It's a joke. But that really is how it's going to work. Each of these avatars, if you look at the embedded code, have a number, have a code number. When Mr. Assistant Principal uses this avatar, man, Google knows something's up. Again, you got to look a little behind what's visible. Now, very near future, 5 minutes behind schedule. Very near future will bring, I have been putting this up since 1998, so Hope 2. Hope 2, Hope 1, whatever Hope that was, I put it up. And this was a predictive graph. In fact, and by the way, this is right here. This is Bryant Park. In fact, this was wildly underestimated. They estimated about 1,200 cameras a square mile. Manhattan now has a density of a minimum of 3,000 cameras a square mile below 96th all the way down to the Battery. The average person walking around in Manhattan is caught on camera, I mean in this hotel every nanosecond, but caught on camera walking in the street, estimated 140 times a day. Now, it's not just cameras. If it was cameras, somebody would have to sit there and watch the cameras and know it's you and say, hey, that's Bob. Bob's walking down the street. The technology has kept up with the cameras and with the installation. And you now have smart cameras, which have embedded facial recognition and embedded activity recognition. Facial recognition means the camera looks at you and it knows it's Bob. And it reports it's Bob, especially if somebody's looking for Bob. There's also activity. Well, you know what? Let me do this in order. Here's representative growth. London. London, England, in 1967, cameras were introduced. In 1996, about 20 years later, there were only 500 cameras. As of last year, there are 4.2 million, and you know, the Brits really know how to put lipstick on a pig. They really do. They call these cameras community safety cameras, not we're watching you every second of your life cameras. But that's what it is. Now, by the way, these cameras are worthless. They didn't stop the London tube bombing. As you'll see in a second, 50% of all assaults are caught on cameras in London. Only 3% of the crimes are solved as a result of the cameras. Now, if there isn't already a camera, every little police department. I've got a summer home down in the middle of nowhere in Texas. If I told you where it is, you've never heard of it. My nearest neighbor is 1.25 miles away. The sheriff's department in my county has a drone. This is the new thing. Texas has them. Helicopter drones. This is Miami. Oh, this is actually my favorite one. Florida, before they really learned how to use the drone, it flew off and sunk in the ocean. DARPA, who brought you the internet, is making tiny, tiny, tiny little drones the size of flies. But here's the creepiest thing. They took a real moth and they put like a little brain controller in it. This is an actual photo from DARPA, if you think I'm making this up. And they called it Cyborg Fly. They wanted to be able to have like this moth go into a room and fill you. It's like, yeah, Vinny, the shipment's coming in tonight. What's with these flies, you know? I had to do that. But that's not that, I mean, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, not so wild. Oh, this is another spooky, spooky, spooky thing. Defense Research Associates, Devil Ray. This thing, if you look in the back, you'll see two spools. This thing, when it starts running low on power, like a vampire, it can let out two wires, fly on top of a high tension wire, suck up some power, recharge, suck up the spools, and fly on. I mean, this is the future. This thing will never land until the motor breaks or the Terminator shoots it down or something. Let's talk about NYPD, and we're going to get into some creepy stuff. This is the NYPD's helicopter. It's not two guys going, oh, you know, there's a traffic jam down there. The electronics are so sophisticated, they need essentially a weapons operator. He sits back there and he runs the surveillance stuff. This thing from 2 kilometers away, which, what's that, a mile? 1.4 miles, can look into your car and see what you're doing. How do I know that? Because there was actually a case of a guy a few weeks ago sitting in a car with a gun. You know, our police are badly paid, but they're not idiots. They said, the man's in the car with a gun, there's nobody in there with him. You know, let's leave him alone there for a second and figure out what to do. They called in the helicopter. The helicopter looked into the car and saw that he already shot himself. And they went over and took them off to the morgue. This thing can look right into your car, see what you're doing. Frankly, it can see what you're reading if it's at an appropriate altitude. Now, this is the wave of the future. Excuse me one second. The NYPD is putting out these cameras, which are day-night cameras. They never sleep. They never go on a bathroom break. You put it on post, it watches the area forever. And with facial recognition technology and activity recognition technology, it knows what's going on 24/7. Now, let me tell you about this one camera. I was doing a job in Brooklyn. And at the time, I was dating a girl in the Midwood area, so it was convenient for me to take the subway to Newkirk Avenue, get off at Newkirk Avenue, walk a couple of blocks to her house. Being an investigator and being Steve, I noticed that this particular subway station was ringed with these surveillance cameras. You could not move without being on film. Now, that's Newkirk Avenue. In my travels, I said, why this train station? 5 stations in either direction, not a single camera. Go a little bit over to the F line, 10 stations, not a single camera. Only this one station, Newkirk Avenue. Here's an aerial shot. That building, that's the station. You go out the right, you go out the left, those are the only 2 doors, cameras. You walk down the block, camera. You walk down the block the other way, camera. You can't go into that station, you can't go out of that station, meaning you cannot access public transportation in that neighborhood without being videoed 24/7. This is the most intense coverage that I'm aware of in New York City. They don't even have this at Herald Square where they really, really need it. One door, another door, front and back of the station. This is a lot of money and really sophisticated. Local area network connected by microwave. If you look at the other camera, transmitting to a central station. Completely surrounding. Why? So one Sunday I was visiting my girlfriend, and what did I see? That's the neighborhood. Normally I got there 1 at night, 2 at night, nobody on the streets. You know, maybe I should have noticed the falafel stands, the shish kebab places, but I didn't. This is the neighborhood. These are real photos of Coney Island Avenue, 2 blocks from the station, on Pakistan Day Parade. So I said, you know, it's starting to look like this unique coverage where they want to see everybody entering and leaving the neighborhood at this particular choke point is because this is the most intensely Muslim neighborhood in New York. So obviously I went to census.gov and I pulled up neighborhood concentrations by religion. The X is where the station is. The light green and the dark green, concentration of foreign-born, foreign-speaking people. The dark green, 75% or better. So, coincidence? Maybe, probably not. That's the new trend. And what you have to remember is it's not just cameras. It's facial recognition, it's activity recognition. You know, when I think of our great trans fat killing mayor, Mayor Bloomberg, the first thing that comes to mind, and those of you that live in New York are going to see this right away when I say it, what immediately comes to mind is Montgomery Burns on The Simpsons. I mean, this guy is a guy who lives in a mansion, you know, with the little button, release the hounds, and has no sense of what it's like to be a normal person. And I guarantee you that when the NYPD tech services people came to him and said, we're going to give you 1 million cameras, and the cameras aren't going to have to be watched. We're going to program them so they can sense if the guy's a criminal, if he's doing something wrong, if he's a guy we're looking